How's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. This is what my video is about. I'm going to splice this in with the rest of my video. This will be the beginning of it. It's a long video. Most people know that I don't like long videos. Here's the date. So, this is the gist of my video, and I explain it with Abib being the first month. The fact of this right here, it says 4 months to harvest. This is the whole meaning of this, with the barley being early, as I have stated. That's why I'm watching the barley. This is a God thing. This is only God could do this. I know where I live, the ducks have supposed to be gone. I noticed that they're all on my lake. They haven't left. It's almost Thanksgiving. They're supposed to leave in September. They're still here. This is all from God. Right here. Exodus. This is Tabernacle. This is in Exodus 40 before. If you read Exodus 40 and then you read Leviticus, this goes right into Leviticus and it carries right into Leviticus. So, Exodus, it says, in the first day of the first month, I will set up my tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. Okay, right here. It says the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, this is when he's supposed to set up his tabernacle. It's on the first day of the first month. Okay, that's Abib. That's the first month, the first day, right here. He also goes on to say down here, and I have it played later. He said the first year they came out of they came out Exodus, right here. This shall be the first month to you. This is Abib. It says in the second year, the first day of the first month, the Lord spoke to Moses. This is when Jesus is going to set up his tabernacle. This is when Jesus, as I have said before, when Jesus comes out of his closet, when he comes out of his chamber for his bride in her closet, right here, this is when he does it. He comes out of he gathers the people. He sanctifies the congregation. He assembles the elders. When is he going to do that? He's going to do that right here. The first day of Abib, the first month. I did misspoke at the end of my video. I'm not going to change it. I think I said Jesus, but the Lord spoke to Moses. Right here, the Lord spoke to Moses. I think I did make a mistake at the end. I do misspoke. I get rambling. I try not to ramble. Love you all. So, this right here. I have shown this very, very a lot. What does this mean? This is the first day of the first month, crescent moon. The first day of the first month, crescent moon. That's what that means. The first day. So the first day of Abib in the first month, first day of the month, Abib, is when we leave. Now, I'm not going to get sidetracked, so this is the beginning of my video. It says in Exodus, if you go and I show on the rest, I think it's Leviticus 23 or something like that. Then God tells Moses, after that, then you're supposed to have Passover in the first month. And then you're supposed to have Feast of Tabernacles in the 7th month. But, when is it you set it up? From the beginning. So, how's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. Here's the date today. I'm going to splice these videos together. It's going to be a little bit longer. Yes, we are watching these days right here. But, I've got some information here, which we are watching. Of course we're watching. But I'm going to focus on this right here. You say there's 4 months to harvest. Look up. The fields are white and ready for harvest. So in other words, this is showing that there's a harvest that's 4 months before it should be. It shouldn't be there. White barley is white or yellowish. So I will go over that right now. I have this right here from Yusha. I'll play a little bit of this. I've been watching him every day. As I showed in my next video, that's how she starts her calendar. She had that. I will have it in here a little bit later. I will play it. I had it in my last video. She starts her calendar off the barley. And this is how they used to do it. And I will show you right here. In his last video, he said he went up on the hillside and he could see everything's green. It's all coming up. It's going like wildfire. Pretty much. It's growing real fast. I'll play it right now.
Till about Friday. We're going to be at about 75, 76 today as a high. Low of about 59. And then for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're saying 80 to 83 as highs and about 58 to 60 as lows. And then they're expecting rain on Friday and Saturday, and the lows will be around 60, 59 to 61, and the highs will be 74 to 78. So that's pretty mild weather. And then they're talking, that's 60 and 50% chance of rain. And then like Sunday next week, yeah, it's too far in advance. It's ridiculous what they say. They could go out a day or so for the rain, and that's about it. I don't know. But it's sunny, so I imagine the plants, if they're not laying down, will be doing good with the sun and all the rain yesterday. The rain interferes with the routine of the dogs, of course, but they just have to put up with it. It was about 60 degrees or so when I took the dogs in the evening.
So he went on to say, he said in this video that it's abnormal. It's great for growing crops. And as he said there, you could see 60 to 80 degrees. So this is prime. The barley's going to be growing like wildfire. And they are going to be checking it, as I have said. And I will show it in here in another part of the video where she says that that she starts her calendar. And I don't know if you picked that up in my last video. I will show it here in a minute, and I'll splice these together. Thank you. Yes, here it is, this part right here.
Okay, so that's what I'm noticing. These barley and the wheat is what we'll watch to know when the next calendar starts. And I was just simply not expecting to be busy in that work quite this.
So, as she said, they know the traditions. The barley is what starts the calendar in Israel, as she just explained right there. As it says right here, 4 months early. It's 4 months early. Lift up your eyes. The fields are white and ready for harvest. This right here, as I showed you, she's starting her calendar the first month of Abib. And I will go into more in detail now. After this, I'll be splicing this together. Yes, I am watching this week, but this is what I believe the sign is. This is from God, showing us, just like the Bethlehem star, with Jesus being born, the signs with the wheat. Love you. I'm gonna splice this together. Yes, I hope you're doing well. This is continuation right here. Here's the date. Here's the time. As he stated in his video, he made a book on the barley in the first month. He wrote a book about the barley, Abib, in the first month. So that's the first witness. As I said, I jumped in on this video about him explaining about the barley and the barley being the first month. Now I will explain this right here. He is exactly in agreement. And as I showed you with Musha's wife, she was going to start her calendar from the Abib, from the barley. as she stated in my video I had. She said she didn't know she was going to have to start her calendar so early. This is Exodus also, when the Egyptians came out of Egypt. We're going to be coming out of Babylon, or we're going to be leaving.
All that to say, we have a wonderful little verse here that I'd read over many years until it was pointed out to me about 15 or 16 years ago. And it's in Exodus 9, verse 31. It says, "Now the flax and the barley were struck, for the barley was in the head, and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not struck, for they are late crops." Now this was the aftermath of the plague of hail, the seventh plague that came upon the Egyptians. What is the significance of this passage, and why is it in here? I mean, what is the point of that? Do you think that the Bible just puts little pieces of information in the Bible for no reason at all? You know, I like I said, I've been studying the Bible daily for 50 years, or almost 15 years. I guess it was probably been about 49 years as of this year. I just rounded up to say 50. In a few months, it will be 50 years. But anyway, I see these little details and I get excited, because here's another piece of the puzzle to help us to understand the truth of the Bible and how to walk it out. Let me just back up. Barley was a cultivated crop as a grain crop, cultivated as a grain crop in ancient Egypt as well as in Israel. In fact, if you go over to Israel, it grows like a weed. I don't know if I have any barley around here that I brought back from Israel. I don't think I do. But when I was over in Israel, there was barley growing all over the place. I mean, all the way up to the north, all the way down to the south. It just grows along the roadside like a weed, because it was an ancient crop, and it was the first crop that came ripe in the spring. It was planted in the fall, and it came ripe in the spring around Passover time. Passover and unleavened bread, and it was ripe and ready to be harvested. And some areas came ripe, other times some came later, depending on the microclimate of the area in which it was raised. And then
he said ripe and ready to be harvested.
Passover and unleavened bread, and then about a month or two later, then the wheat harvest. The wheat took longer to mature, and it would come ripe during the time of Pentecost, in what we would call the late spring. So here we see that the barley was in the head. Barley was cultivated as a grain crop in ancient Egypt as well as Israel. And like I say, grows like a weed. And I've been there and seen it, and it's true. Several passages in the Bible, in the scriptures, witness to the fact that the barley was an indicator as to which month was to be the first month of the year for the Israelites. Why is this important? It's so they could determine the New Year's Day, and from that they would then calculate the biblical calendar and determine when the biblical feasts were, the biblical holidays. So for example, in Deuteronomy 16, verse 1, we read the following: "Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover." And Abib is spelled A-B-I-B. It's a Hebrew word. Some spell A-V-I-V, because the letter Bet, the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet, can be a B or a V pronounced, depending whether it's hard or soft sound. But anyway, I think most would say would agree this Abib, but it could be either way. "Observe the month of the Abib, and keep the Passover unto Yehovah your Elohim, for in the month of the Abib, Yehovah your Elohim brought thee forth out of Egypt by night." So the Exodus happened in the month of the Abib. What is this strange word that is that we read here, the month of the Abib? Because it does not, if we read in the English here, Exodus 9 verse 31, it says, "And the flax and the barley were struck, for the barley was in the head, and the flax was in the bud." The word head there, the barley was in the head, is the Hebrew word Abib. So please note that, and we'll come back and define that word here in a moment. But please note that in our Deuteronomy 16:1 reference, it says, we read the month of the Abib. If you look in the Hebrew, you have the definite article. It's the hey prefix. before the word month, which is chodesh or chadashah. I don't remember which word it's. Rosh Chodesh is the head of the month, so it'll be Chodesh, so it'll be probably Chodesh or Chadashah or whatever. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the Hebrew and read it. I don't have that in front of me. But anyway, the month of the Abib, so it's the definite article. It's a specific month when something is in the head and comes ripe. A grain crop, in other words. It's in that month you are to keep the Passover, not a month early and not a month later. So please note that the definite article, the is a definite article, not the indefinite article, a month of the Abib, but the month, a specific thing. It's a difference between the house and a house. A house can be any house, but the house means a specific house, and this is referring to a specific, definite month. So it says that in the month of the Abib, the state of the barley determined the name of the specific month in the spring on Yehovah's calendar. You see, months in the Hebrew Bible, in the Hebrew calendar, always from antiquity have been determined by the first visible crescent new moon. That which can be seen is a visible sign. Genesis 1:14 talks about the sign of the sun and the moon. It's the Hebrew word ot, and it's a visible sign. Ot is a visible sign. It is not an invisible sign, like those that go after the conjunction when you can't see the sun. We call that the no moon. That which is invisible is not a visible sign. That's what the word ot means. It's a sign. It's something you can see. And that's how the Jews, going clear back in the time of Yeshua and before, have always started their months as soon as the new moon was visible to be seen by the naked eye. So this is started the months in the biblical Hebrew calendar, and it was determined by the first visible sliver of the new moon. And we see that this was the beginning of the biblical year. If we go to Exodus 12, verse 2, just a few chapters later, it says, "This shall be your beginning of the months, shall be the first month of the year to you." So when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, this was their first month of the year. It was when the barley was in its head. It was ripe and in its head. It was in the state of Abib because, as I said, Exodus 9, verse 31, the word, and I'm reading from the New King James, when it says the barley was in the head, the word head is Abib. So, the state of the barley determines which month is to be the first month of the biblical year. The month of Abib is not so much the name of a month as it is a description of the month. So it's the word for Chodesh, or the word month, and it says it's a month when something is ripe. Some grain crop is in the head. Well, the wheat is not in the head. It doesn't come ripe until a month or two later. The flax wasn't in the head because we read in Exodus 9 that the flax was still in its let's see here. The flax was still in its, was in the bud. So it was not in an advanced stage. It hadn't started to fructify or to become fruit yet. But the only crop in Israel, and in fact the first crop, that along with the almonds, which is a fruit tree or a nut tree, but the only grain crop that comes ripe at that time of the year is the barley. There's no other crop. So this gives us a clue as to which crop it was that determined the beginning of the new year. So there are several places where we see the phrase, there's only three other places besides the Deuteronomy 16:1 where the phrase Abib is mentioned. And this would be, first one would be Exodus 13, verse 4. "This day came you out in the month of the Abib." This is speaking about the Exodus. They came out. The Israelites left Egypt at the time of Passover in the month of the Abib. Exodus 13:4. Exodus 23:15, it says, "You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days as I commanded thee in the time appointed of the month Abib, for in it you came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. Exodus 23:15. So
that's why the barley is
reference.
ready.
And the third reference, there's actually two references to the month of the Abib. In this final reference is found in Exodus 34, verse 18. And it says, and I quote, "The feast of unleavened bread shall you keep. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, as I commanded you in the time of the month Abib. For in the month Abib you came out from Egypt." Exodus 34, verse 18. So what? Let's put all of our information together. The barley was in the Abib state when the hail struck.
Yep.
The seventh plague that came down upon Egypt. This was the beginning of the new year for the Israelites. Exodus 12, verse 2. It was called the month of the Abib barley, and it was when they came out of Egypt, and it was when they kept the Passover and unleavened bread. There we have several determining factors that tell us when this month was and when the new year started. It started when the barley was Abib. It started when they came out of Egypt, at Passover, and at unleavened bread. And this was the beginning of the month, or the first month of the year. Now, what does the word Abib, in the phrase the month of the Abib, mean? Well, the Hebrew word Abib is only found 6 times in the Bible, and we just read those 6 times. And according to the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, which is one of the most preeminent lexical references that gets into the meanings of Hebrew words and gives you an encyclopedia of Hebrew words and how they're used in the Bible, the Theological Word Book of the Old Testament says, and I quote, "This noun," the word Abib, it means ripe in the bud. "This noun refers to barley that is already ripe but still soft, the grains of which are eaten either rubbed or roasted." The American Standard Version and the Revised Standard Version agree, but see Luke 2:14. The seventh plague brought ruinous hail upon Egypt's barley crop at least 2 weeks before it was fully ripened and ready for harvest. Exodus 9:31. Abib was also the early name, later Nisan, Nisan, of the first month of the Jewish calendar, which is the month of Passover. In that month, the barley came to ear, but the usual time of harvest was the second month, Iyar. According to Leviticus 2:14, the grain offering was to consist of the first fruits of Abib. So
First
here
fruit.
we see that, according to the Theological Word of the Old Testament, the barley came ripe. The early barley came ripe in the land of Israel during the time of Passover. But because of, if you've ever been to the land of Israel, there are a lot of geographical, topographical elevations in the land of Israel. Some are up in the mountains and some are down in the valleys. For example, Jerusalem is at about 25, Jerusalem and the Mount of Olives are range between about 25 and 2,800 feet above sea level. The Judean foothills or mountains around that area are higher. And then about 20 or so miles from Jerusalem, you go down to the Jordan Valley where the Dead Sea is, and it's the lowest spot on earth at about 1,300 feet below sea level. So we have a differential there of about almost 3 to 4,000 feet. Actually more than 4,000 feet if you consider from the top of the Judean hills. So, and there's a lot of microclimates. So I've been in Israel, I've searched out the barley, and there's some areas where it comes ripe first, some areas where it comes ripe later, and this process of ripening, depending on the climate, can occur weeks between each other, depending on where it is. I mean, anywhere you have agricultural products, I live in an agricultural area here in the Willamette Valley of Western Oregon, and we have areas where things come ripe faster and some come ripe sooner.
Depends on the weather.
Fruit trees and strawberries and things like that, depending on the season, depending on how much sun there was, depending on what the elevation is, depending on what the microclimates. Some micro areas are warmer than other areas, depending on how the winds blow. A lot of variable factors. I'm an agriculturalist. I've been in agriculture and horticulture all my life. It's something I know a lot about. And so I'm not speaking out of my top of my hat on this one. I'm a certified arborist and I own a ornamental tree and care shrub company professionally. I'm an expert for 30 some years. And I've been working in agriculture and nursery stock and livestock all my life for since I was a child, because I grew up in that environment on a farm and in a nursery. So it's something, to me that's very real. But I understand people growing up in a city or have not been around agriculture, this may be very difficult to understand. So I'm trying to make it simple. So the barley came ripe. Some places it came ripe earlier, but as Theological Workbook of the Old Testament, it would keep coming ripe sometimes for weeks after. Just like the wheat. The wheat, sometimes the wheat would come earlier, sometimes it would come later. But the wheat never came ripe at the time of the barley. That just doesn't happen. It's too early. So this determines when the new year is. Now, you might say, well, why do we need the barley to determine when the new year is? Just, pick one of the months in the spring. Well, the question is, which month? When you see that sliver of the new moon, how do you know that's maybe not the end of the year, the 12th month? Maybe there's going to be a 13th month, because in the Hebrew calendar there can be a 13th month called an Adar Bet. How do you know you don't postpone it for a month? Well, so there's some guesswork there. That's where, when the barley comes ripe, that's when you know it comes ripe, or abib, that's when you know that is the beginning of the new year. They needed to have the barley ripe for the wave sheaf offering during the Feast of Unleavened Bread that happened on the first day after the weekly Sabbath, during or slightly after the Feast of Unleavened Bread, so that they could offer up the wave sheaf offering there. And the priests could, on First Fruits Day, which happened usually during the Feast of Unleavened Bread. First Fruits Day was a special, what's called the wave sheaf offering, that the priests would raise up and accept, or raise up to Yehovah for acceptance, for his acceptance there in the tabernacle at the altar. And it was a thank you offering, but it was the very first harvest of barley that came ripe in the land of Israel. They would cut some, and then they would wave it up to Yehovah for his acceptance.
He explained it right there, beautiful. This is a wave sheaf offering, as I have said before. This is in Malachi chapter 3. It says, "They shall be mine." That's the wave sheaf offering. That's the first fruits. That's 10%. That's what I believe is the first fruits harvest. And then after that comes the main harvest, which most people believe that. So that's why I've watched the Beeb all along. That's why I've watched Musha's channel all along, because she started her calendar at the Beeb. First month, wave sheaf offering, and then comes the main harvest. And as it says in Daniel chapter 10 right here, as I had this on Passover last year, and it says right here, in the first month right here, and month, as by the side of the great. So this is Daniel's vision. It says in the first month. Cyrus Trump is also in the third year of his presidency right here, until he gets to January 21st. He's in his third year. Once he gets to his fourth year, it'd be 3 years and whatever months. This right here, this lines up perfectly. We will be out of here before this. Like I said, I am watching the barley. Right here, they came out of Egypt, as he said. Right here is, I'm watching for sure, but I believe the barley will be ready on Hanukkah. See, as you can see right here, we might see something like he said, rocks falling from the sky, like they did in the 7th plague. So the 10th right here, Hanukkah right here, we have 3 weeks, which is the Leonid meteor shower. I'm not sure what day it peaks, but we will watch. And then, like I said, it was already up on the ground right here. So I'm assuming 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. 6 times 7, that's beautiful timing. And he says the weather is 80 to 60. If you know anything about agriculture, you know, in the spring, especially where I live, it probably 60 for a high with the barley here and where I live in the state I live. In March and April and May, 60 is a high, maybe 65. Musha's saying it's 80s. And anyway, love you all. And this is just putting the pieces together. And as I have said all along, Daniel chapter 10, the first month, Abib is how they start their calendar, just like Musha was starting his calendar as Abib. I've been watching them for years. Also, too, I'll stop it here. I'll probably splice something together. Like I said, we're all watching. Yes, I'm going to finish this up now. Like I said, here's the date today. I'm watching today and tomorrow this week. But I'm also watching this, as I have said. Now let's go over this right here. It says right here, it says ye are ready for the Son of Man cometh at an hour you think not. An hour you think not would be 4 months to harvest. As I said right here, you say there's 4 months to harvest. This is talking about the barley, I believe, the first fruits. And it says down here, as you read here, it says, this is Luke 12:40, says, ye be ready for the Son of Man cometh at an hour you think not. Well, it says down here, it says, to give them a portion of meat in due season. It says portion of meat, and then it says in due season right here. Well, if you go to due season right here, there's 10 verses. You can check these off for yourself. It talks about the first rain, the first month, the latter rain in the former rain in the first month. It also talks about due season. It says right here, give them their meat in due season. It says eyes upon the due season. It says Ecclesiastes, blessed is the land, son of the nobles and princes. Right here, drunkenness, just like Luke chapter 12. Don't be drunken, that day come upon you and you were unaware. Right here, due season. This is talking about meat in due season. Right here, the Lord, who is the faithful and wise servant, that the Lord shall make ruler over all that he has, in portion of meat in due season. As I said right here, this right here, Jesus said, I showed this in my last video, he's talking about the king's meat. This is Jesus' portion of meat, his meat. It says down here, he also compares it to bread. Bread. This is Passover. So, like I said, yes, we are watching. What am I going to be watching? I'm going to be watching when the barley is ripe. And I believe it's going to be around in December, probably the first week, Hanukkah. Right here, Hanukkah. The sliver of the moon is right in here. I think it's the 13th. Could be the 12th. Right in there, the new moon. The 21st is a great conjunction. But as you can see, there's 21 days there. There's 21 days in the last month from the barley. That's 40 days roughly. Like I said, we are watching every day, but this is what I'm watching. I'm going to keep watching because she's going to be making her calendar, as I showed. She's going to be making her calendar in the first month, Abib. I believe that's the same as Exodus right here. This day they came out of Egypt in the month of Abib. This is something, as I said, says right here, says he's coming at a day you think not. But if you're watching, you're a wise and faithful servant. You're watching, you're going to watch the signs. Just as they watch for the barley to come up, just as I stated, the wise men watch for the signs. He's going to show you in the sun, moon, and stars. But I believe that this is when we leave. We will keep watching, and I will keep making videos up until we leave. But I hope you're all doing well, and this is what I'm going to be looking at. And hope you're all doing well. Thank you. Bye. How's everybody doing? I'm ending my video right here. This is probably the most important part. So here's the date right here, 11/5/5. Right here, 16th. As I have stated in this video, that I'm waiting for the Abib, the barley, to be ripe, because I believe that's when we leave, when the barleys are ripe. That's the first month, as I've been going over this whole video, the first month. Right here it says, in Luke it says, be ready, also the Son of Man cometh at an hour you think not. Okay, that's because we're confused. Now, go right here, 4 months to harvest. As I showed you with the barley, I believe this is the time. Now let's go to right here. This is for my friends that think we're leaving in the 7th month. 7th month, it says right here, speak unto the children of Israel, the Lord said this. The 15th day of the month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles. This is the 7th month, okay? Right here. Jesus said a greater than Moses is here. He compared himself to Moses, but he's greater than Moses. Okay, right here, as I have showed before, it says gather the congregation. This is what Moses was doing. This is what Jesus will be doing. Gather the congregation. Sanctify the congregation. Assemble the elders and the children. The bridegroom out of his chamber and the bride out of her closet. Now, if you go to Exodus chapter 12, in Exodus chapter 12, Jesus says, in the first month, I'm not going to play this because I've played it before. Exodus chapter 12, it says in the first month you gather a lamb. Also says down here, assemble the congregation. First month. Assemble the congregation. Okay? Okay. Now, most people are going off the Leviticus verse right here, the 7th month. But Moses' tabernacle was already set up. When's Jesus going to set up his tabernacle? He's going to set it up in the first month. And this is the Lord saying, the Lord spoke to Moses right here. The first day of the first month, set up your tabernacle. This is what Jesus is going to be doing. He's going to be setting up his tabernacle. We got to be there. The mercy seat's there, as you can see right here. He's not going to have Moses' mercy seat. He's going to have his own.
Exodus 40. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, on the first day of the first month shalt thou set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, and thou shalt put therein the ark of the testimony, and cover the ark with a veil. And thou shalt bring in the table, and set in order the things that are to be set in order upon it. And thou shalt bring in the candlestick, and light the lamps thereof. And thou shalt set the altar of gold for the incense before.
Candlesticks. What does it say in Revelations? Right here's all the candlestick verses. You can check this stuff out for yourself. It's in Exodus 40, just as I showed you. Right here. What's it say right here? Revelations. Right here. The churches set up the candlesticks. The golden candlesticks. Let's go back to Exodus 14.
The ark of the testimony, and put the hanging of the door to the tabernacle. And thou shalt set the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. And thou shalt set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and shalt put water therein. And thou shalt set up the court round about, and hang up the hanging at the court gate. And thou shalt take the anointing oil, and anoint the tabernacle, and all that is therein, and shalt hallow it in all the vessels thereof, and it shall be holy.
Vessels.
And thou shalt anoint the altar of the burnt offering, and all his vessels, and sanctify the altar.
All of his vessels.
And it shall be an altar most holy.
Jesus' vessels.
And thou shalt anoint the laver and his foot, and sanctify it. And thou shalt bring Aaron and his sons unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation,
right there, congregation,
and wash them with water. And thou shalt put upon Aaron the holy garments, and anoint him, and sanctify
Jesus
him,
is going to be doing
that
this.
he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt bring his sons, and clothe them with coats. And thou shalt anoint them, as thou didst anoint their father, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. For their anointing shall surely be an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. Thus did Moses. According to all that the Lord commanded him, so did he. And it came to pass in the first month, in the second year, on the first day of the month, that the tabernacle was reared up. And Moses reared up the tabernacle, and fastened his sockets, and set up the boards thereof, and put in the bars thereof, and reared up his pillars. And he spread abroad the tent over the tabernacle, and put the covering of the tent above upon it, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he took and put the testimony into the ark, and set the staves on the ark, and put the mercy seat above upon the ark. And he brought the ark into the tabernacle, and set up the veil of the covering, and covered the ark of the testimony, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the table in the tent of the congregation upon the side of the tabernacle northward without the veil. And he set the bread in order upon it before the Lord, as the Lord had commanded Moses. And he put the candlestick in the tent of the congregation over against the table on the side of the tabernacle southward. And he lighted the lamps before the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he put the golden altar in the tent of the congregation before the veil. And he burnt sweet incense thereon, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set up the hanging at the door of the tabernacle. And he put the altar of burnt offering by the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the meat offering, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and put water there to wash withal. And Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet thereat, when they went into the tent of the congregation, and when they came near unto the altar, they washed, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he reared up the court round about the tabernacle and the altar, and set up the hanging of the court gate. So Moses finished the work.
Also talks about the mercy seat there. So, as I said, gather the congregation, assemble the elders. When does it happen? Happens in the first month. As it also said in there from Exodus chapter 12, it said a year after they were delivered, a year after they set up the tabernacle. So the tabernacle was in the first month. They were delivered in the first month. And then if you go to Leviticus chapter 23 right here, it says God told him to do that in the 7th month. So, in the beginning, we leave. When does Jesus set up his tabernacle? I'm assuming that we are in the kingdom. In the first month, if we will have unleavened bread, Passover, in the kingdom, and then in the 7th month we'll have tabernacles. But when was it first set up? It was set up in the first month. And just as I showed right here, Joel, he's setting up his kingdom that will reign. He'll reign forever and ever. So I'm very excited about this. This is why I'm watching the first month. And yes, I can see where people would have got confused with the 7th month. But God first told Moses in the first month, this is when you're supposed to set it up. You're supposed to set up your congregation. You're supposed to set up your, it's setting up your kingdom. So, love you. like I said, I'm excited. This is why I've been looking at the first month. And as the days go by here, I'm not putting this video out just for respect. I'm not putting it out probably until tomorrow or the next day. It's a pretty long video, but you can go over these yourself. The barley is the first month, and it's by a miracle, just like I believe it's going to end up about right around Hanukkah. It'll be before the 21st, definitely. Before the 21st of December. Excuse me. Right here, the 21st of December, definitely. But could be ripe. Barley could be ripe around Hanukkah, which is roughly 4 weeks, 5 weeks away. The weather's going great. Love you all, and I'm excited. Like I said, these are putting all the pieces together, I believe. You can go over this yourself. Lord spake to Moses. Love you all, and bye.